Boom, I'm so good at this. And now check out my skills. I'm going to make it so that I'm actually in front of, and you guys, the chat, are in front of the tier list. Like that. See, and you can see me as well. Okay, so now I'm officially streaming. You know, if you want to be a real streamer, here's what you do. You don't really play video games. You talk about people who play video games. You talk about stuff other people have made. And you look at the chat constantly and you say things like, hey, shout outs to you, bro. Rip grandma. I'm sorry your grandma died. All right, let's look at this tier list. From Main Man. So this is called Final Character Tier List, Tekken World Tour 2023. So I guess he's like taking the recent World Tour, whatever. I don't know what happened, but he's taking that into consideration, right? When I think about this, I tend to think about it more in terms of what will get you high ranks easily, the very, very highest ranks like TGO and TGP, because I think when you're at the very highest pro level, the player factor is so huge that I think the character choice becomes a little bit diminished in a way. But okay, let's talk about. Do you guys want to start at the top or the bottom? Let's start at the bottom, I guess, and work our way up. So bottom 10. Dragunov. It's a complete misunderstanding of Dragunov, I think. I think the running 2, down 2 trifecta has been basically a pre-packaged winning strategy since this game came out, and it still works. It's still as good as it's ever been. And if you compare it to something like a Lars, who's next to Dragunov there, Lars doesn't have any strategy or any moves or anything that he can go to. He can't reliably create advantage. All of his lows are launch punishable, whereas Dragunov has like down 2, best low ever, running 2, best pressure tool ever, and then he has really good jab and poke strings and counter hits. Or like, you know, the counter hitting jab strings up close and stuff. So I think he's a much better character than Lars. I put Dragunov in top 20. Lars is trash. Sometimes you play a Lars who absolutely stomps you, which is interesting. I wonder how they do it. But the problem with Lars is he has to do down back 4, and you can block down back 4, and then he gets launched and then he loses. So if you're playing on a good connection and your opponent is fast, then you're going to lose because you're going to block down back 4. And the other thing is, if you're losing to Lars online, it's probably because you're staring at dynamic entry without interrupting it, because they like to cycle through stance mix-ups because they don't really have anything else. But if he's transitioning into dynamic without advantage, just do a counter hit move, just interrupt him, just do a hoppakiku, and he's going to lose. Yoshi, I think, is bad and belongs in the bottom tier, so that makes perfect sense. I don't like some of the unblockable stuff. That's poorly balanced. Some of it's maybe unreasonably effective for Oki specifically. And he got like the good new tactics, but I don't think he's a great character. I think he's bottom 10 easily, so well done. Fuckum Lam, I think, probably is trash now. I haven't really looked at him since the big nerfs, but neither has anybody else, and that's very interesting. It gives you this an interesting insight into how big of a bitch-born stack of trash the Tekken playing community is, because when something is so broken that he can't even be hit, and you can get free TGO by pressing your favorite colored button on your little controller, then everybody's playing Fuckum Lam, but you nerf him and then there's no loyalty, and everybody's a backstabbing little bitch. But you know, no news there. We've known that since Leroy. Lydia, I don't know either. I think Lydia might still be very good, but it's another one of those where I haven't looked at it properly since the nerfs at all. But I find it very, very hard to imagine that she would go from being like considered by many top players like one of the best characters ever to like a bottom tier. So I don't know. Chloe is bad, belongs here. Gigas is bad, belongs here. Bears, I think, are underestimated, and you could bump them up like one tier here. 1 or 2. And then Oscar, I think, is also underestimated by Main Man here. By the way, go and watch Main Man's video and support him, obviously. I don't usually do this sort of thing. Normally, I'd ask him permission to watch this first, but, you know, He's a super cool guy, and he's usually very nice about that sort of thing. But support him and don't watch this shitty stream. I mean, you can tell I'm basically, you know, plastic Taiwanese main man, right? And then Josie, I think, is also underestimated here, but it becomes difficult because so many characters are so good. Somebody has to be bottom tier, right? But Josie, maybe. I'd bump her up 1 as well. And then, because we bumped up 2 or 3 characters, we have to bump a couple of characters from top 40 down to bottom tier, right? Elisa is one of the worst characters in the game, still. Very difficult to play against, and sometimes she's just flying around, and it's like, oh, you don't. I mean, I played her for a long time, and sometimes I don't know what to do. So I get that, but it is genuinely one of those where when you do know, she doesn't really have that much. And then I think Shaheen might actually be pretty bad as well. Lily, I think, is one of the strongest characters in the game, but that's like my controversial, trashy opinion. But yeah, it's not looking that weird so far, except for Kazuya, of course. I mean, I don't think you can have 13 frame while standing launcher, the best jab string in the game, knockdown and delayable, and flash punch combo, the 1-1, designed in a very unique and cancerous way where you can duck a single jab, and all the while standing launchers in the game will get interrupted by the second jab, which means you can't duck jabs and launch against characters that have flash punch combo, and it's like a core thing I like to do. I like to predict like jabs and go under and do really quick, almost instant while standing launchers, right? I like to play like that. Doesn't work against these characters, so their jabs are effectively mids, and it's trash. Electric Wind Godfist is a homing mid. People like to talk about it as if it is a linear high, but you can't crush it with moves that crush highs. You have to sit in duck at Kazuya's preferred range and wait for it, and then you go under it. But if you go under it or the electric goes over you, it still recovers too fast now that your wild standing launcher is going to get blocked and punished. So for all intents and purposes, it's a homing mid, one of the most poorly thought out and designed moves in the history of fighting games, and it's also very easy to do. I'm going to show you guys that footage, but when I tried to learn Electric Wind Godfist, I got a perfect one on my first try, and then I did it 69 times in a row without failing. So that's what I knew for a fact, that when people say that these characters are hard, it's a fucking smokescreen to keep you guys in the dark, you know, and intimidated, and you don't go and play those characters, and you have to like give props to the people who do, but they're super easy characters. They only use 3 moves, and the electric is a broken homing mid, so there you go. What else do we have? Let's look at top 30 a little bit. Master Raven could be true. Could definitely be true. She could be even higher. It's one of those where it's mysterious. She got nerfed really hard, but I think if she didn't get nerfed that hard, she would have been one of those sleeper characters like Feng that all of a sudden spikes and everybody plays them because they realize that it's, you know, it's free TGO. The nerf to her armor move from back turn was kind of crazy. Now people have gone, they play a kind of Lily style back turn game with her where they just go for like a jab or a fast low poke from the back turn. Her combo game's obviously still good, but inconsistent, which is annoying. She spins around to the side a little bit too much, and a lot of stuff is inconsistent. But she's one of the coolest characters ever, and if I was more of like a big boy and I had the balls, I just learned how to play her and main her, because I think she's awesome. What do you guys think? Shaheen is top? Nah, he isn't. Shaheen players are top tier. He's very, very scaled down. There's nothing that stands out as being super powerful. Even the combos are kind of weak right now. And but people who choose to play Shaheen tend to be these like genius Tekken players, right? I was playing what's the name of that pro player, Joka. I was playing his Shaheen the other day, and I think I beat him once or twice, but he beat me like a bunch more times, 5 or 6. And he was hitting me, and it was like magic. But the moves he was hitting with were like not that good. He just knew exactly when to do them, when to do down 4-2. You know, when to let a down back 2-1 rip for a wall splat, stuff like that. Shaheen isn't that good. I didn't talk about Beerus or Gigas really. I think I did. Gigas is trash. Beerus are better and should probably be in top 40. What else do we have here? Devil Jin top 30. Devil Jin is mid tier? Damn. Devil Jin? Unseeable low launcher for infinite advantage, infinite spacing advantage, infinite fucking damage, infinite fucking everything. You nerfed one of the mids he can mix that with, and he's all of a sudden mid-tier? Devil Jin is one of the most pathetically busted things that have ever been made, ever, like in the history of this planet or this universe. Okay? He's an illegitimate character. Your rank is fake if you get it with Devil Jin, because you can just press the win button. Laser Scraper needs to be nerfed. Flash Punch combo needs to be nerfed. Steel Pedal needs to be nerfed. The Hell Sweep needs to be removed, and the Electric Wind God Fist needs to be redesigned from the ground up. But you know, I guess he's mid-tier. He lost 10 damage? Oh no. Does he still launch you for free whenever he wants to with an unseeable low poke, though? As long as he has a mid, he's always going to be busted as long as he has the Hell Sweep. He doesn't need that very, very broken mix-up mid that he had that they nerfed. Of course they had to nerf that. But they could have kept the mid and removed the Hell Sweep. But then you've changed then it's a new character and they didn't want to do that. What else? Noctis, Lee. Yeah, I don't have strong opinions on any of these characters, really. And then we come to, like, my main, which is Babu. He's placed him in top 30. And this is interesting, because Main Man's actually, like, underestimating my main a little bit. Usually it's the other way around, right? But I think I would place Bob just at the tip of top 20. So he's actually very well placed here, if it's ordered from left to right. But I think Bob is, like, on the strong side of mid-tier. He's on the strong side of, he's like lower high tier or upper mid tier. But the really great thing about playing Bob is that, okay, so sometimes when you play Lars, I think it's more pronounced when you play Lars than any other character, but it happens when I play Katarina, it happens when I play a bunch of characters. It's like, oh, I don't have anything that I can just do here. You know, I keep moving around and looking for opportunities, but my opponent's giving me nothing, and there's nothing that I can just do right now. Just throw out and see what happens. I don't have Zafina's forward 4. Or down 3 or whatever. Lars doesn't have that. You can do forward 1+2, but you end up doing so many forward 1+2 that people just start stepping it consistently to the right. But with Bob, the reason I think I like playing Bob so much is I always have something like pretty strong and cool that I can do. I can always throw a Lariat, which can be stepped, but it's hard. It's super good, safe, nice move. You know, I can throw a Hell Sweep. It's risky, but if I do it fast enough, you know, it's a knockdown low. It works. It really works. I can do an up forward 1+2 and roll back just to test my opponent a little bit. If I'm playing like a Chad, I can hit confirm it and let it rip. You know. I've got the safe high hop kick. You know, there's all this great stuff that you can just try with Bob. Whereas with characters that don't really have a playstyle, they have to rely on the opponent's mistakes. And if the opponent doesn't make mistakes, if they turtle up, you just suck ass forever. And that's Lars's main problem. And that's why I don't think Dragunov belongs down there. Because running 2 is you know, it's pre-packaged winning. Just break the glass, open the seal, and free fucking winning flies out the cannon up your asshole, and now you're you know, TGP. So yeah, Bob's a cool character. I love him. Official favorite Tekken character right now. Official favorite Tekken character probably for the rest of 7, and I hope he's in 8 because then I know exactly who I'm gonna play. Top 20. Yeah, I think Katarina being up here is kind of crazy. I guess Girlanda made a splash with her recently, but she just has a bunch of damage. If you're super good, if you're one of those Shaheen boys where you have like the fundamentals and you're just stepping and setting stuff up, classic things, down forward 1, hop kick, jabs, you know, then yeah, you can do okay with her, but she doesn't have anything that stands out apart from her damage. It's just the damage and the combos are crazy good. But if people are going to see down back 3, what do you have for mixing lows? If people are going to sidestep duck, you know you can step duck Harrier. The guy I played earlier kept getting counter hit by Harrier 1. If you step duck against Harrier, it's a useless stance that can't be played or used. I have to look at like Yolanda and figure out how he uses the stance, if he uses it at all. Because if he does, like, I want to understand how you can use it against a top level player with good reactions and still get something out of it. Because it's, if you compare it to other advancing mix-up stances, it's surprising how weak it is. So they try to give it a serious mix-up by adding a load to it, this Harrier down forward 3 in a recent patch. And I'm like, finally, turns out you can beat that in the same way you beat a lot of other options, right? So it's very, very easy to contend with their stance. And if you compare it to something like a Harrier from Leroy, or sorry, a Hermit from Leroy, for example, those real stances, it's pretty trash. Harrier down forward 2, tracks sidestep right and is mid. But that's all you can do against sidestep right duck. Okay. Thanks, Tinytastic. There you go. There you go. And the down forward 2, the extension obviously is duckable, right? So you probably have to hit the brakes, otherwise you're going to get launched. Katarina's top 14. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a very, very strange take. But it is true that if she can just get a hit, she can run away with so much damage that she can basically mix for the win with the Oki. You saw it when I played that Anna earlier, right? But you could say the exact same thing about Anna in a lot of ways, and I think Anna is actually better. She can actually mix with her full crouch snake edge. She has just as much damage. I think she has better counter hits in a lot of ways. And she definitely has better lows. So I think if you think that Katarina is this good, you kind of have to place Anna next to her or above her, right? Could be wrong, though. Leo, really high placed here, which is kind of crazy. But might be true. Might be true. I played a lot of Leo a couple of months ago, and I really enjoyed it. It's a cool character. I don't know how strong she is, though. Miguel, another one of my favorites up here. Yeah, I think, you know, I think you should probably switch Bob and Miguel, their placements. They're both in this area. I think that's true. I think they're honesty. I think they're both honesty. But I think Bob is maybe a little bit better than Miguel. But that could just be because I'm more comfortable and I like playing Bob a little bit more than Miguel. Kunimitsu is a free TGO character. You can pick her and press your jabs until the screen says TGO. You will never have to learn a combo or anything else about the game. It's as free and dumb as it can get. Kunimitsu is below any criticism I can give in terms of character design, and you should be very embarrassed if you've ever picked her. She's completely insurmountable as a character. That's a controversial opinion of mine. I don't know if people agree with that, but fuck it, it's true. Paul is kind of busted. His down 4-2 has needed a nerf for like the longest time, but he has like a lot of evasive, crazy. He's like, you know, he's basically law at this point. Paul is crazy. Elisa being this high is very weird. I don't think Elisa is this good at all. I think she should go down 2 tiers to like top 30 maybe. Elisa is, I mean, her chainsaws are kind of good now. They're kind of really good now and oppressive. But everything outside of chainsaw, I think, is still kind of unimpressive. So, I don't know. You don't understand why down 4-2 is hated so much? Let's talk about it, Oolong Pansu. So, you have a lot of down 4-2s in the game, right? And they usually fall into one of two categories. You have punishable down 4-2s, and they launch people who are crouching. So you have Leo now, you have Jack, and so on. But they're usually minus, 12, 13. And they have some good range on them. But then you have the safe down 4-2 category, where you have Elisa's down 4-2 and Shaheen's down 4-2. These don't launch crouchers because that would make them overpowered for mix-up purposes, right? If you had a safe 15-frame mid that you could just do every time you mixed, you'd get way too many free launches off of that. So they made them not launch crouchers, but safe on block. So Paul has one of those. But it has the range, basically, of Jack's down 4-2. It's got consistent high crush as well. And it's very, very difficult to avoid and evade. So it's essentially... Okay, think about it this way. If I could give you... Miguel, think about Miguel has down 4-1. You do it all the time, right? If I increase the range of Miguel's down 4-1 by 20% and I gave it consistent high crush... And I made it a normal hit launcher, but I made it 2 frames slower to impact. Would you make that trade? Would you take that move? Obviously you would, right? And then you wouldn't have a down forward one, but it's essentially like a fast mid-check poke that sometimes just launches for this giant combo, right? And getting 1 knockdown with Paul is also very valuable, because even though the damage he gets off of that specific launcher isn't too crazy, if he gets the wall, it's really high, but then he runs up and he mixes, for something else gigantic. He's one of those characters, right? That's why Paul's down forward 2 is so good. It's a strong candidate for the best move in this entire game. It's insanely powerful. Because, okay, so when you think about a move being good or bad, you're comparing, right, the risk versus reward. That's something very important to remember when you're thinking about how good something is in Tekken. You're comparing risk-reward, right? So with Paul, the risk of throwing a down forward 2 is minimal. You basically cannot get... it cannot go wrong. You're not going to get punished. You're not going to eat damage for attempting this. But sometimes you get a combo and you spiral that into the entire round. The risk-reward ratio is like that. Alright. Brian is up here. Happy to see that main man is on board with Brian being busted in this game. Let's also... I hope he also agrees at this point that Brian is very, very easy to play. Probably one of the easiest to play characters in this entire game. Marduk is completely broken. He's a pathetic character choice that can boost a player by 25 ranks. I think if you're a green rank level player, you should be able to get at least TTG just by picking Marduk and doing nothing else to improve. I think it's a shameful design. And everything he does is pathetic dog shit, and I'd rather play with a stranger's ballsack than with or against Marduk. Jin is, in my opinion, probably the best character in this game, bar Akuma. I think Jin right now is probably the most powerful character in all of Tekken, bar Akuma, but I don't consider Akuma a character. So for me, I think Jin is top 1. So, putting him in top, what is this, top 6 or 7 makes perfect sense. Zafina is heavily overestimated by a lot of people. If you think that Zafina is this crazy evasive character that can just do anything to you, start walking her stances, and then you'll notice that every time you do, unless it's specifically Mantis and she's using Mantis down forward 4, which no Zafina players do because they added it in a recent patch and nobody remembers, you can get a bunch of free damage just for walking her stances. I guess Scarecrow is still very good. 1+2, can track and whatever. So if you have a bad backdash, I think Scarecrow is very dangerous, but Mantis and Tarantula, not so much. Obviously, the backdash is dangerous, but I think her whiff punishment is a little bit lackluster. I don't think down forward 2 is as amazing as people make it out to do. The range is good, but a little bit iffy, and down forward 4 is just awkward. And if you get it wrong, you get ducked and launched. Arslan Ash's strategy with this character is so interesting, because if you look at how he plays, he's basically relying a lot, the bedrock of his Zafina is actually forward 3, the heal, the axe kick that gives him advantage, and it can Scarecrow transition. I think he tends to not transition when he uses it, but he will do that over and over. And you can't really play her like that unless you're as good as Arslan Ash, because that's a 21 to impact move. It's kind of slow. And you can easily get counter hit on the way in. It's dangerous, right? So he places it so perfectly all the time that he's always at advantage. But even when you make an opponent block that, it's not like she has this crazy, Paul style mix-up that she can just do. So I don't know. Yeah, she's definitely good. Like I usually say, definitely the best character I play. But I'd say top 20 rather than top 10. Feng players are influenced because Feng was broken for the longest time, nobody knew, and then this player won a tournament and everybody's, oh damn, you can just win with Feng by constantly being at advantage and crushing and having the dumbest fucking moves ever. Okay, and they gave him that new spin move, so now you can always combo with him. The new spin move is the most consistent and good spin move ever in Tekken, which means that even though standard open air combos aren't giant damage, she always gets a combo and you can't fail. That spin move is crazy good, right? So they had to nerf Feng. They nerfed him super hard, super hard. They nerfed him kind of hard, but he still like deserves to be up here. Julia is still crazy. She's one of those like super good characters that not a lot of people play, so we don't talk about her enough. Then she dodged the nerfs in the latest patch, where she probably should have been nerfed alongside a lot of other broken DLC characters, but she wasn't. Geesis, boring, overpowered insanity. The big problem with Geese is still that I think you could remove his meter and his ability to spin in combos, and he'd still be too good. But those are the craziest things, right? The fact that you can get a hit with him and then spiral it into that much damage, and it also just keeps going, and it's so boring to sit there and like be on the receiving end of Geese, because you get comboed for like a minute and then he resets and he combos again, and then he picks you up, tells you to stand up, but puts you back on the ground and just keeps going. And by the end of it, you wish you'd never played Tekken right, which I think makes it an unfortunately poor character design. But you could remove his ability to spin in combos, and he would still have like good combos. And you could remove his meter in max mode, and he still has like good down forward one. He still has like really good punishment. There's like a solid Tekken character package in there. The jumping hand, his safe hop kick orbital is crazy. It's another one of the best moves ever in the game. That's an insane move. His counter hit low impact's way too fast. His lows are kind of good in general. But yeah, insane character. Insane character. So well done. And then Akuma. Personally, I would make a tier above the entire tier list, just called Akuma, and it's not a tier. It's just this embarrassing bucket of dog shit that sits on top of the tier list, and the shit trickles down all across Tekken 7dom for all the years this game has been out. 8 years of Akuma being this unfortunate feature, pissing on the playability of what should have been one of the greatest fighting games of all time. Akuma is something that we should never forgive Namco for, that we should never forgive the Tekken players who have picked the character for. We should always ridicule and laugh at people who have ever made a single excuse for Akuma. And the reason for that is, things that you can never have in Tekken, he has all of them. You can't have death combos, you can't have launching jabs, you can't have launching unseeable low pokes, and he just has all of it. You can't fly in the air in Tekken, especially not because there are no characters in the game with anti-air. You also can't have safe on block while standing launchers. You know, he goes in a crouch and he can do his while standing launcher, and then he flips out of it. So even though you blocked a while standing too, which you're like hardwired to try and punch as a Tekken player, he's just flying over you and he's coming down with an inescapable mix-up because it has fucking counter hit launching homing moves, unbreakable throws. I mean, he can become intangible, he can zone you, he can kill you with a single jab, he can kill you with a single low poke, he can death combo, he can reset. All the things that if you wrote like the 10 commandments of what you cannot have in Tekken if you want the game system to work on any level, they've given him all of it. And then they tried to redesign him so many times to make it work, and they failed every single time because they don't understand what they made. And they've just left Akuma now for the latest couple of patches because they've given up. But I remember on Arcade when Akuma came out, they nerfed or redesigned Akuma 15 times before console release, and then they kept doing it after that as well, and they couldn't get it to work because they don't want to remove special cancels, obviously. But if you take Akuma and you remove all that crap, you end up with a shitty character called Elisa, who doesn't work either, but for other reasons, right? So overall, I think Main Man's done a pretty good tier list. There are like, I think it's, if people are reacting like dramatically to this, it's because it makes perfect sense for the most part, but then there are like a couple of weird spicy picks. But remember, he's a professional content creator. He might have put Katarina in top 20 because he wants people to talk about the tier list. I don't know. I think he's probably being honest with his opinion here. But if I made a tier list, it would look roughly the same. But then there would be these like weird spicy picks that I would make. For example, I would put Lily in top 10. And people would be like, have you seen Frame Whisperer's shitty tier list? What an asshole. You know? I put Dragunov in top 20. For sure. I put Zafina top 20, so down. I'd bump up probably Oscar and Lydia. But, you know, what I think of Eliza, I think she's an incomplete design that doesn't really work. She's a nightmare to play against, so you can get wins with her, but if the opponent knows anything about what to do, she's genuinely one of the weakest characters in the entire game. Alright, you guys happy now?